You know, I don't know if they want me to be a circus act or be out there, you know, like a show. I played my hardest, and I played hard every night. I thought I took, you know, what the city was about, and that's being blue collar. You know, that sure was how I approached the game. Play every side of the ball. You know, they have, you know, now they have with Lance, the guy that they're looking for.
Welcome to SI Now Live. I'm Robin Lundberg. He's Ryan Aselta, and Paul George's return to Indy went about as expected.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Scorned fans are not quick to forgive or forget, Robin. Yeah, George made his return to Indianapolis for the first time since forcing his way out of Indiana, and he was promptly booed at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. OKC, they win the game, but George, Carmelo, Westbrook, they struggled big time here, Robin. How long do we give the Thunder until we have a verdict on if this team can actually come together and play good ball?
I'm going to get to that in just a second. I want to touch on the boos quickly first. Why is this still news? I mean, there's a difference between sports hate and real hate. It's perfectly understandable when you play with a franchise for a long time and then you want to go somewhere else that the fans don't exactly laud you upon your return. When it comes to Thunder themselves, we're getting close to the point where it seems like it may be the law of diminishing returns when it comes to Westbrook, Anthony, and George. Three guys who have been used to having the ball in their hands a lot, facilitating a lot of offense, and they haven't been able to really work it out together. Of the three, George seems the most adept at playing off the ball, but the two other guys he's playing with dominate the ball so much. Doesn't help that Carmelo Anthony appears like he may be well past his prime.
Right.
And the Thunder are struggling a lot more than I thought they would, and it's getting really, really concerning where they might have to think about, you know, pumping the brakes on this whole experiment and rebooting it.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's taken this long, and what you mentioned is right on point. They are all ball dominant, the three of them, especially Carmelo Anthony, which was in full effect last night. Down the stretch, tight game against Indiana, and all of a sudden Melo is taking bad shot after bad shot, not getting to the hoop, the same stuff we saw the last 2 to 3 years in New York with the Knicks. These guys have to figure out a way to play together, and they don't share the ball. They're 25th in the league in assists, Robin. They're not dishing the ball, sharing the wealth here. And when they have a night like they did last night where they go 10 of 45 from the floor, you know, they're lucky to get out of Indiana with a win. Westbrook's clearly the guy. Crunch time, the ball should be in his hands and let him facilitate. The other two, swallow their pride and step back just a little bit here.
Well, here's the thing with Westbrook. We saw the best version of himself when he was doing everything by himself. And now it's noteworthy when he gets a triple-double, right? I mean, It was normal when he got a triple-double a year ago. He averaged it for the whole season en route to the MVP. Now, he might not even be having an all-star season. That shows you how combustible this has all been. And it's basically brought out the worst, I think, in Anthony's habits and Westbrook's drawbacks, because, you know, if you're going to be at your best when no one's around to help, how can you be diminished when you do have some help?
Yeah, there's just not enough shots to go around. We'll see if Billy Donovan can find a way. You know, coaches got to be magicians sometimes to make it work. Now's the time for him to do that.
He'll be the fall guy first before anything else happens.
Him, and then possibly they move, you know, Paul George out of OKC. Maybe he doesn't even make it through the season. Meanwhile, in Houston, Robin, the Rockets, they just keep on rolling here. Houston makes quick work of the Hornets for its 11th straight win. Chris Paul, season-high 31 points, and it's no coincidence here. Since Paul returned to the lineup, the Rockets haven't lost. Paul, in contrast to the Thunder, has gelled immediately in Houston. He has, as that move, you think, what has it done for his career? You know, a lot of questions about him leaving the Clippers, legacy with him, what it would be. Has he actually helped his reputation right away here in Houston?
So far, I think so. Of course, these things ultimately won't be judged until we see what happens in the postseason. But the Clippers have fallen off the map, and Chris Paul has thrived in Houston. They have the best offense of all time up until this point, with Harden and Paul swapping the point guard duties a little bit. And the concern there with Oklahoma City was similar about ball-dominant guys, but it's sort of been the opposite result because Paul and Harden are different type of players. Yeah, they both control the ball, but Chris Paul is about the most prototypical throwback floor general we've seen play in a long, long time, while Harden's looking to get his first and is creating off of the penetration that he provides. So both of these guys using D'Antoni's system with all the extra possessions, Houston is humming right now, and it feels fun because it feels like there's a legitimate threat to Golden State, and we might, for the first time in a while, not have a sure thing with a Cleveland and Golden State rematch in the finals.
Yeah, what's been a big deal here, and make no question, Paul and Harden are on the court quite a bit together, but Paul plays a lot against other teams' second units, which is boosting his stat line. He's averaging 17 and 9 over this winning streak. This is something that Oklahoma City may want to take notice of and say, hey, let me split up my guys, split up that big three a little bit, play one of them, play Melo or George maybe against the second units, get the scoring there so they're not fighting for their shots against Westbrook. Paul and Harden have managed to do that. Paul's getting his shots against the second unit. He's dishing, he's facilitating with Harden on the floor, and it's obviously been a big success. They're starting to get to that point now where you're thinking, can this team challenge Golden State down the stretch?
And aside from just play on the court, let's take into account personality a little bit here. Chris Paul is fiery. So he brings a little bit of a different type of motivation to the team than we've seen from Harden. Not a knock on Harden, that's just not who he is. And at the same time, the competitiveness on the defensive end from Chris Paul. Houston, I believe, is 6th right now in defensive efficiency. That D'Antoni team is always known as being great at offense, not so great at defense. And the rule of thumb in recent NBA years is you got to be in the top third in both offense and defense. Right now, Houston #1 at offense and still near the top in defense.
Let me ask you about leadership with him, because obviously Paul is a leader. It comes with the position. He's a point guard. He's fiery. He is a vocal leader. He's a leader on the court. When you look at OKC, are any of those three the actual leader? Carmelo has never been much of a vocal leader. It doesn't seem like Paul George has been that guy either. Are they missing that when you compare the two teams, you think?
Yeah, I think they are missing that. I mean, Carmelo Anthony has never been the lead vocally or maybe even by example guy. Paul George, same thing. He doesn't have that kind of personality, and Westbrook's personality is to dominate everything, which doesn't help the other guys grow. So I think you're right on that assessment that they don't have the guy who's going to say, all right, everybody, let's get this together, and that's why you put the onus on Billy Donovan. Some comments coming in. Mike says, OKC knew all three were ball hogs before they brought them in. And Great Armand said, Westbrook averages 10 assists per game. What are you saying? Well, he has the ball a lot, too. Remember, when you're talking about the triple-doubles from a year ago, his usage rate was record-breaking. No one controlled as many possessions as he did a year ago. He's going to get some assists having the ball that much. The problem is he hasn't been as efficient in getting it done, and the other guys haven't benefited because George, Westbrook, and Anthony are all shooting poorly from the field.
That's a great point. 10 assists per game is great for Westbrook, but the team's only averaging 20 per game. So no one else is really sharing the wealth other than Westbrook at times. At some point, George and Carmelo have to facilitate, and you would think that would in turn help Westbrook, especially down the stretch in ball games.
He's got to be a better quarterback, I guess. The quarterback coming back, Aaron Rodgers, he's back for the Pack, put in preparations for a return Sunday against Carolina coach Mike McCarthy said he doesn't want to have a bunch of false confidence from his team, and Rodgers says he isn't back to save the team. How much pressure is on Rodgers to save the Packers and maybe to some degree the NFL season?
Yeah, I don't know if the pressure's there, because if it doesn't work out, they don't make the playoffs, and they're up against it right now. We talked a little bit yesterday about their schedule, logjam in the NFC. If they don't make it, no one's going to blame Aaron Rodgers. If they do make it, it'd be quite the story. Remember the run he went on last year with this team to get them back to that point, the streak at the end of the year. I think it's an opportunity for the Pack to grab people's attention. When the Pack are competitive, a playoff team, it's good for football, but I do think it's a good opportunity for the league here, too. It's been no secret. It's been a tumultuous season for the NFL, but to get one of your marquee players back in the playoffs, I mean, can you imagine if Rodgers goes on a run here, grabs the attention of the league? Could you imagine a Brady-Rodgers Super Bowl, what that would do? Maybe it would take away from all the other stuff off the field that we've been dealing with, whether it be the protests, Roger Goodell, Jerry Jones, some of the scandals, the suspensions, the injuries, the concussions. Brady versus Rodgers in the Super Bowl, I might forget that for a little while. So the opportunity is there. I don't necessarily look at it as pressure for him, though.
One of the reasons people say they love the NFL is parity, and it does feel like there's some genuine parity in the NFC in particular, with a lot of teams having a chance, so the Packers can now get in that mix. And you're right. We've been looking for that storyline to latch onto. Yeah. It was Carson Wentz and the Eagles, and he's out. It was Deshaun Watson before then, and he's out. Rodgers coming back and going on a run would fill that bill.
Yeah, the other one to keep an eye on, we haven't talked a ton about this, keep an eye on the Cowboys. If they can get through this week with a win, all of a sudden Elliott comes back. That's a team that could make a very late run and then be much more competitive come playoff time if they get in. And I think there's a list of teams this year, especially the NFC, Robin, that are very good football teams that may actually not make the playoffs. If one of them does get in, though, I could see those teams going to the Super Bowl. You talk about the Falcons, the Cowboys, the Packers. If they get in, they could have a good run on them, but they may not make it as well. We're learning a little more, Robin, about the Ball brothers, that pro deal in Lithuania now. Apparently the deal is just for 1 month. Yeah, that's right. And after that, either the Balls or the team can terminate the contract. Now, they caused quite the stir when it was announced they were going to Lithuania, but now that we know it's a 1 month contract here, much ado about nothing when it comes to the Balls?
Well, it strengthens what I said before. I thought this was an interesting idea to see how it plays out. And people acted like LeVar Ball was banishing these kids to Lithuania for the rest of their existence.
Siberia, right?
You know, like 1 month, if they don't like it, they can come back. LaMelo's only 16. And for me, it seems to be that LeVar Ball's preference is all about sort of freedom and doing it his own way. This maintains that freedom because in any contract, you clearly have some leverage if you're able to get yourself out at some point very quickly. Now, you would hope they play the whole season to get the full experience and see what they're made of over there, and I already see that there's some hype in Lithuania. But having the out shows you that this isn't quite, you know, what some people were making it out to be, as in destroying the development of a young person forever.
Yeah, it doesn't smell right to me, this whole thing. Now, LeVar said, what, this isn't about the money. Yeah, I guess not. They may not actually be getting paid to go over there. Some of the reports are saying that there might not be any money involved, that this could be completely a marketing deal, that the team is looking to secure a jersey marketing sponsorship when it comes to the Balls coming over. That doesn't smell right. This smells like a business move. I mean, when it comes to LiAngelo, yeah, I think he may have been out of options with what went on at UCLA, so it could be a good opportunity for him to go abroad, you know, develop his game a little bit on the pro level. I just worry about LaMelo. At 16, you pull him out of high school, he's going to go play 5 games. That's how many games the team has in January to go across the world to play in Lithuania, far from home, far from his comfort zone. I'm not sure how much that helps him. Maybe it helps the family with marketing. Maybe they secure some of this jersey deal, but it just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know.
I can't speak to what they're doing with the schooling, so I'm not going to say too much, but it does leave options, right? I mean, so he's not locked into this deal. If it works out and he loves it, great. If he doesn't, then he can come back. I really don't see the loss here.
Yeah, all right.
Meanwhile, agent Scott Boras had some words for the Miami Marlins' new ownership at the winter meetings, comparing the organization to a pawn shop. Is he right? And how can fans be excited about new ownership holding a fire sale?
I think they actually cost more at a pawn shop. More money will be spent than the pennies on the dollar that's going on right now.
Definitely more rings than they'll get.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to figure out what this organization is doing. They're going through their 3rd rebuild in the last 20 years, and there's been a couple World Series titles in the middle of that, Robin. Derek Jeter is just selling off every asset he has at this point with Stanton. Ozuna's the one that's mind-boggling because Ozuna doesn't hit free agency till 2020. This guy was a stud last year, 37 home runs. You think if you trade Stanton, who hits over 50, you're going to keep Ozuna to have some sort of pop in the lineup. Is Jeter trying to, you know, he believes in the homegrown talent. He saw that in New York. He was part of that with the core 4 and came up through the organization and won all those titles. But they had a good core of young, home-developed talent when it came to Stanton, Yelich, Ozuna. All of a sudden, he's selling off those parts. I don't really understand it. The Stanton contract was so idiotic. It put that franchise in a hole. They got out of it, got rid of him. They could have rebuilt around Yelich and Ozuna. Instead, they're going to have a scrap heap for a roster this year.
From a pure financial standpoint, okay, you need to balance the books or whatever you need to do. But eventually you have to put butts in seats. You have to get viewership. You have to sell sponsors. And generally, you see a new ownership come over, they try to make this big splash, like maybe Prokhorov did with the Nets, and it backfires a little bit. But there's got to be a middle ground somewhere where people have some reason to be excited about the team. There is absolutely no reason for anyone to be excited about this fish that's been scaled and picked for bones.
Gutted. That's what you'd say this fish has been. And remember, they have a brand new building. You know, it usually starts with that. You have a new stadium. You want to put some people in those seats. Who is going to come watch this team this season? There's no one worth watching. Obviously, they had the tragedy with Jose Fernandez, but you think coming off of that, fine, trade Stanton, rebuild with what you have. You had some good young talent. Are you paying any money to go to a Miami Marlins game next season?
At MLB Updates 9 tweets in, probably not, because he says Jeter sucks. Now, is this a great deal for Jeter? Because he's become the face of all of this, and I don't know how much control he actually has.
Yeah, but he's part of this ownership group. So whatever the financial plan is to get to that bottom line that they're looking to get to, he is a part of this. And from a baseball standpoint, he looks like a buffoon here because these are not solid baseball moves that he's making right now.
He's the anti-A-Rod in every way, including, you know, nothing to do with any huge long-term contracts.
Yeah, I think you could say that's fair.
I'm Robin Lundberg here with the front office's Jeremy Woo. Now, a lot of hype about this year's rookie class, but some of the top picks haven't performed, with Markelle Fultz barely seeing the court and Lonzo Ball still finding his way. But let's go over some of the rookies who have really exceeded in their roles. And let's start with one of Lonzo's teammates, Kyle Kuzma of the Lakers.
Absolutely. I mean, Kuzma is a guy who I think really benefited in the pre-draft process. You know, he came in out of Utah. His stats in college were, you know, not as great as you would think, right? And now he shows up at the combine, goes off at the combine, shuts it down after one day. You know, in the draft, I think the Lakers really zeroed in on him early in the draft process. You know, anytime you can find a guy in that range, and especially, you know, who can play right away for a team that's rebuilding, I mean, I think is a huge plus. You know, Kuzma's ceiling, I think we'll kind of see whether this is kind of what he is, what he can add to his game going forward. But I think he's in the right place, and he's able to play off some guys, you know, in Lonzo and Brandon Ingram, who are going to really sort of be carrying the load.
Next up, let's go to maybe the most criticized pick in the draft, and that was Lauri Markkanen of the Chicago Bulls. He's kind of made a lot of people eat their words. Yeah,
you know, I was critical of the trade. I think it was more the trade than the pick. For me, shooting, especially in big guys, translates. You know, it's hard to block his shot. He's a legit 7 feet. He's a pretty good athlete, and I think you look around the league and you see these guys from overseas, you know, who are not just, you know, shooters anymore, but they're guys who, you know, bang inside. I think there's a wide range of, you know, foreign players who come in and produce.
Now, the front runner for Rookie of the Year all year has been Ben Simmons. Somebody else has emerged in that race. It might now be a two-man race because of Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, I don't know if I think Ben Simmons has it pretty wrapped up, but Mitchell's been in a great spot with Gordon Hayward gone. Rodney Hood has been hurt, so Mitchell's been able to come in and take a lot of shots. And I think that, you know, that's a big reason I think that his production has come so quick. And even Gobert has been, you know, hurt, and they've still sort of found ways to kind of cobble it together. But they really have sort of put together a strong, I think, consistent culture around the team.
Now let's head to the final guy on our list. Of course, a lot of talk from Danny Ainge heading into the draft where he thought they could get their top pick where they were picking, and they wound up getting a pretty darn good one in Jason Tatum. Do you think if he wasn't on the team he's on right now, he could be in the Rookie of the Year conversation?
I think it's possible, but it's interesting with Tatum because he's a guy who I think that if you put him on, say, like Sacramento, you know, you'd see him taking a lot more shots. He probably would not be as efficient, and he wouldn't be getting these clean looks. Like, you know, playing in Boston and being fit into a neat role, especially with Hayward out, as sort of a complementary guy to space the floor has been great. Now, I don't think anyone thought he'd be shooting, you know, around 50% from three. But I think that it's just been one of those dream fits for him. And I think, you know, I mean, I guess I believe Ainge when he was saying, you know, that was his top guy.
There you have it, some of the rookies who are thriving this year, courtesy of the front office's Jeremy Woo.
Hey, I'm Max Bonstetter, and today okay, one more time. Hey, I'm Max Bonstetter, the Sports Illustrated Kids reporter, and today I'm joined by one more time. Okay. Hey, I'm Max Bonstetter, and today I'm joined by two Winter Olympians and gold medalists, Josh Christenson and Maddie Bowman. What would you guys say is the hardest mountain you've ever skied on?
Ooh, the hardest mountain? I think the hardest mountain I've ever skied on would be in Chamonix, France.
I'd have to agree with Maddie. It's probably the scariest mountain I've skied on as well.
It's pretty cool.
There's crevasses everywhere.
I gotta know, especially since I'm on the camera a lot, what's the best type of hair gel? Like, what are you using?
I don't
You
usually
got some
wear
pretty
gel.
nice hair right there.
Thank you. It's hat hair.
Hat hair?
Yeah.
I usually wear beanies.
Yeah. Hats. If you have
do
a
you wear?
bad hair day.
I get some little like spiking hair gel. You know, I got to put it in the front.
Yeah, it looks
Put
good.
some water in the back.
Looks good.
Yeah,
Got
you
it.
look nice.
You both won your gold medals back in Sochi, and I want to know what was the coolest part about that whole experience?
My favorite part after the Olympics, after winning my gold medal, was coming home and my hometown, South Lake Tahoe, through this big parade. It was so much fun. We got to ride on a fire truck. There was like a band. It was awesome. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the coolest part of the Olympics for me was just being able to wear the flag on my back the whole time. And, you know, everyone is walking around the athlete village wearing their team's gear. You could tell who was from which country by what they were wearing, and it was really fun just to roam around with my team, just the 4 of us, wearing our American gear. And I just thought it was cool. It made me feel like I was in Harry Potter.
So
Yeah.
what was the food like there? Was it good?
The food was not so great at the athlete village, as long as
They were just making so much food, I think they didn't put much time into it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it made your clothes smell really weird.
Really?
Yeah, like you would only wear one outfit to your dinners and your breakfasts and lunches because it made everything smell super odd.
If you're not at the Olympics, what's like your go-to food?
Mexican food, all day, every day.
I ate mac and cheese with a tuna packet and half an avocado with some hot sauce.
That's so weird.
If you're going down a hill really, really fast, what's like the stance you need to be in? Like, how do I?
Just like you're super athletic.
An aggressive stance.
Yeah, an aggressive.
You need to be ready to hit
Can one
bumps,
of you guys show me?
trees.
I guess, yeah.
show
Just
me?
like ready.
You
know?
have like feet wide,
Yeah, not too
Like
wide.
shoulder
Your
width?
skis would go wrong.
shoulder.
Feet are straight.
Straight, because skis are sliding. Unless you
How-
want a
this is
pizza.
Toes straight.
good?
Toes.
Yeah, that's good. And then
toes
you just
straight?
like,
Yeah, there you go.
you just are athletic, like you would be in basketball.
You got to be ready in
up.
case something,
Yeah.
like someone's throwing a ball at you or like you're
Yeah,
gonna
you're
trip
right.
over something. You need to be ready to catch yourself.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a really bad fall?
Yeah. Yeah, we've both had good falls.
I've broken a lot of bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you recently had a really bad injury. So how have you
Yeah.
been recovering from that?
Yeah, pretty good. I tore my ACL almost 7 months ago, and I'm recovered now, according to my doctor, which is great.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go skiing again, and
Gym.
just been in the gym every day, watching my nutrition.
You have a good range of motion. Your leg all good?
Oh yeah, I couldn't bend my knee too far for a couple months, but now it's there. It works.
So growing up, who would you say was your inspiration?
Sarah Burke, she's one of the greatest female skiers, and she was an inspiration to me and a lot of the women that I compete with. And just, you know, my mom, she's a strong lady. So, what about you?
Nice. Yeah, I mean, my inspiration every day growing up skiing in Park City were just my friends. We were pushing each other to get better and better every day. And I mean, of course, I looked up to the pros across all sports, but I mean, Tanner Hall, he
Right.
was one of the originators of our sport and put skiing ahead of everything else in his life, and that's really why we're here today. It's because of guys like him.
When you were growing up, did you play any other sports, or was skiing just meant to be?
Skiing was meant to be, but I played soccer growing up.
So what position did you play in soccer?
I was a midfielder and a defender.
Ooh, so
Yeah.
you mixed it up a little bit?
Yeah, I mixed it up halfway through there. I switched to defense.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I would like to teleport if I had a superpower.
I
It'd
like
make
to stop
traveling
time,
easier. Yes.
but teleporting would actually maybe be pretty cool, or just to fly.
You
So-
already fly, man.
I know, but then you never hit, gravity would never affect us,
Oh, that'd be tight.
Yeah,
and then I wouldn't get hurt.
yeah, you're right. So where would you teleport or fly to?
Just like traveling, it would be
Wherever
so
the
nice.
snow
Yeah,
is.
no plane.
Wherever the snow is, because you could get to a powder day like that, top of the mountain,
First tracks
like
before
that.
everyone else, if you could teleport.
I think this might be my final question, but
Okay.
if you had not pursued skiing, where would you be right now?
That's a scary thought. I don't know.
I'd probably be working alongside my brother, making video games, iPhone apps.
I'd be
I think that's where my-
unemployed. I'd be a
Unemployed?
ski bum. I'd probably be living at my mom's house.
Thank you so much for your time, and good luck making this year's team. I really hope you guys can be successful in this year's Olympics, and have fun.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks
Nice
for having
hanging.
For more Olympic action, you can always go to sikids.com and Sports Illustrated. But for now, I'm Max Bonstetter, and that's the end.
I'm here now with Fox Sports soccer analyst Stu Holden, who comes to us courtesy of Toyota. Let's go places. Now, Stu, Man City on a 15-game winning streak, a Premier League record. They appear kind of unstoppable. I know it's only the middle of December, but has City already locked up the Premier League title?
I want to go ahead and give them the Premier League title because we've seen Pep Guardiola teams in the past where they've dominated in Barcelona when he was there and then at Bayern Munich with a sizable advantage. Both of those teams went on to win the Premier League. They had a massive game at the weekend against Manchester United where they won. Then they went to Swansea and thumped them 4-0. I mean, this team just look confident. They look like they're enjoying their football. Pep Guardiola has this team hitting the stride already before Christmas, and I think they have the Premier League in the bag, but the one that they really want is the Champions League, and that's the one that's really going to define this team.
Can they be the next Invincibles?
I mean, look, I look at this team, and I don't see much of a weak spot. Everyone was criticizing their defense before, their goalkeeper when it was Joe Hart. Pep Guardiola went out. He made new signings. He spent a lot of money in the fullback position. He has players in there that have just been performing for him week in, week out. And in all honesty, I look at this team and I think they could go on and have an undefeated season in the Premier League team, which would put even more pressure on that Arsenal group that hasn't lived up to those invincibles since that point.
Meanwhile, the MLS offseason has only been in effect for 5 days now, yet we've seen the likes of Darlington Nagbe, Laurent Simon, and Walker Zimmerman traded, not to mention names like Sasha Kljestan and Jazzy Zardes are supposedly being shopped as we speak. Why is there so much movement internally within the league this offseason?
I love it. I absolutely love it because we haven't really seen this too much in the past. The largest transaction within the league was Dom Dwyer, where they sent him from Sporting Kansas City to Orlando City SC. And since that point, you're now seeing clubs within Major League Soccer spending money and going after players that are known quantities. I never would have dreamed that Darlington Nagbe would have been leaving the Portland Timbers to go to Atlanta United, one of the most exciting teams in MLS last year. You have a young, exciting American center back from FC Dallas, Walker Zimmerman, that's made his way to LAFC. And then Kai Kamara gets shipped from New England all the way up to Vancouver, the other side of the country, in another country, in fact. So it's good to see Major League Soccer GMs and coaches recognizing that they can still find good talent within the league and that they want to spend their money on those talents. It's interesting how that's going to work out. I was hearing stuff internally about the Darlington Nagbe move and that Portland had made him a couple offers. Neither team really saw each other fitting and finding the right number there. Atlanta United came in at the last minute, made a big offer to Darlington Nagbe, and ultimately his desire then to be in a new location and new surroundings over in Atlanta. And so it's really interesting to see now how Nagbe is going to progress over at Atlanta United.
With Sunil Gulati not running for USSF president again in February, the board held a meeting in Toronto this past Sunday to sort of revamp the president's role. In addition, they plan to add a general manager role to oversee the USMNT head coach. Will these changes create more accountability, you think, within U.S. soccer?
Oh, you're asking the hard hitters already, huh? It's early in the morning. Look, I think that these changes were going to be started to made into effect both before Trinidad and Tobago and then perhaps hurried by that process where the United States doesn't qualify for a World Cup. Everybody just takes a step back and has a look internally at where are the issues. And I know U.S. Soccer has had people from outside analyzing the business, making sure that you're compliant internally, that everything is good. And I'm interested to see what the shakeup actually is and what the new presidential position will be, because it had morphed into a position that it was never intended to be. And Sunil Gulati, who did have a lot of power within the organization, and for good reasons, because he has done amazing things for this sport in this country over the years, but it wasn't operating how the presidential position was initially intended for it to be. So there is a restructuring. I think the most important part out of all of that is that we now have a potential general manager within that structure and a need for a technical committee that identifies the next coaches and that is a soccer mind with a soccer background and has soccer experience in this country. So that, to me, is going to be the most important hire in recent U.S. soccer history.
Now, you're here to promote your charity celebrity soccer match in Houston on December 16th to help Hurricane Harvey victims. At the event, you'll have celebrities like Steve Nash. We know he plays some soccer. Chad Johnson, World Series champion. Alex Bregman playing in the match. So out of those three, who do you think has the best chance of nutmegging you for a goal?
Oh, man. Well, Steve Nash and I play in a weekly pickup soccer game in Los Angeles, and I can assure you he nutmegs me frequently. So I've actually put him on the other team. Steve Nash and I are going to be the two captains. We're going to pick the teams later on today. I think I want Bregman on my team. I mean, I'm looking down the line. Ocho Cinco is a worthy candidate. And one of the joys of being in Houston is that, I'm in my mom's office currently, and I find my old bobblehead here, which she has dressed up with a Santa hat, which I just lost. But, in all honesty, I'm really excited about this event. It's December 16th in Houston, Texas. We have some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment. We have a YouTuber, Jake Paul, who is incredibly famous and has over 10 million viewers and subscribers on YouTube, which I never thought was even a thing until I started to get to know him a little bit. But we're just looking forward to do something exciting for the city of Houston, a city that's been through a lot the last couple months, and in all honesty is a long way from being back on its feet for a full recovery.
Sounds like a great event for a great cause. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great one.
And that's our show. Tune in tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back then. And in the meantime, follow us at SI Now Live on Twitter for the latest videos and updates.